Well, there's a lot coming out of Comic Pros on Facebook this week. Oh my gosh, if I thought that platform died. I hadn't been there really paying too much attention in a while, but I guess in order to get a lot of these Comic Pros, that's where they post these days, where nobody can see them. So very interesting stuff. We have Gail Simone talking about like the woes of the comic book industry, and it really echoes a lot of what other pros have been saying. Very similar to what Mark Millar was stating the other day, and of course, a lot of it is what we say pretty regularly over here. But you won't hear this in a lot of these circles because, of course, we're not allowed to talk to each other, right? I mean, Dan DiDio had to get canceled just because he was talking to me. And, of course, Gail would get canceled if she was talking with me also. It's a ridiculous environment out there in the comic book industry. It's a sad thing. Now, I like Gail Simone, and I'm sorry if you want to cancel me for this. I don't really care. I think she is a fun person to be around. I have met her in person, think she's great. I think her Twitter account's very funny, and I actually like a bunch of her work. My favorite, of course, being Secret Six, and then, of course, Wonder Woman second after that, if you want to go check out some of her work. So let's get into the news and talk about what she's said today. My name is John Delarose. I'm a #1 best-selling author and award-winning comic creator myself, of course, blacklisted by the mainstream industry. One of the people out there who just tells it like it is, which you're not allowed to do in regards to Marvel and DC Comics. And that's fine. I like to make my own stuff, and I'm doing so on Subscribestar. I just put up the first 3 pages for the backers here of Extrasensory, which is a government organization that's out there using their extrasensory capabilities in order to take down demonic threats and the like. Very much on par for what you'd expect out of my books, and I hope you'll absolutely enjoy this. So we're doing this, like I said, 3 pages right now. We're just using this to cover art right now as we're building this up. It's going to take about 300 subscribers to get monthly comics out there, and I want to compete with the mainstream industry and do that. So please come on board here and support our efforts. Really appreciate all you guys who came on this month. It's been a great growth day. That link's in my description below, along with links to my Amazon store and my bookstore on my website. So thank you guys so much again. All right, here's what Gail says. Here's her top 5, and the original post here is, I believe, pet peeves when it comes to comic books. And this is a scathing remarks at the industry from Gail Simone, and she's 100% right. I agree with her on this all the way. And #1 is not making sure veteran pros have work if they want it. Now, this is interesting, and of course, DC Comics and Marvel Comics love this. This has been the scam for a long time. Once you get a name for yourself and all that, you're not the name. Batman's the name. Spider-Man's the name. X-Men is the name. And so they view you as a cog in their machine that's eminently replaceable. Once you become older and you command more money for your work because you've got a bigger following, because your craft's better, because you've got all the experience, they tend to just phase you out of doing work, and then they go find another aspiring person who's happy to simp for the corporate machine at the end of the day. It's worked for a while, but honestly, at this point, we're finding that like the people who are coming in behind are not nearly as talented as the Gail Simones of the world, for example. And of course, the work is suffering as a result. And so this is happening across the board. And on top of it, just because of the royalty fees paid and all that, when they do bring back an old pro or whatnot for something random, I know they just did at Marvel. Peter David did this Joe Fixit sort of call back to his past classic run. They do it for like a miniseries and all that, and you're also not inspired to create something because the royalties are so bad. You might as well create something for yourself rather than give it to Marvel or DC Comics. Very interesting. #2 is not respecting the stories that came before. Now, this is what my movement, comicsgate, was all about as it started. We're out there saying they were not respecting the stories that came before whatsoever. This is a big one from Gail Simone, and I appreciate her calling out the industry for doing this. They tried to replace all the characters and tried to ruin all the characters, tried to change them from what they were and change them into current year modern political nonsense, almost all of them back in 2017. And of course, I reported on that for the Federalist in my very famous article, and that spurred this online movement, of course, going against this as the fans. Now, the corporations didn't listen to us. They did quite the opposite. They went out there and instead of, and I'll add to the pet peeve here, I mean, there should be a 2.5, not respecting the stories that came before and respecting your customers afterwards. And so instead of actually listening to the customers, they went out there and, as we know, they blocked all the customers. They told all the customers they're bigots and racists for wanting better stories out of them. It was really sad for all this going on. Number 3, not allowing the artist room to contribute. Now, this used to be done back in the day. Now, they used to have the bullpens and they would be contributing together. But at this point, the artists are just made to copy and paste these 3D models to try to just like write very specific things. Now, it's different with different artists. Now, I talked with Jack C. Harris, who was an editor at DC Comics back in the 80s, and he loved giving artists room to contribute. He thought that that made things work very well, and he did so to great success with Steve Ditko, one of the greatest artists of all time. You contrast that with Alan Moore. Alan Moore writes these like scrawling, like you'll get a page and a half description of a panel. The artist has to just do his slave labor at that point. And we're moving more towards that direction in the industry because they don't want any leeway out there. Now, part of this also is the big elephant in the room that they've hired a lot of foreign artists who are working for cheap. So these guys barely speak English, so they don't really have a lot of room to be able to do what they would do anyway. And they're doing this to replace the American artists who would actually have the talent and the capability to do so. Price point, it's crazy. I think I picked up Tom King's Wonder Woman and it was like $7. Oh my gosh. That's rough. That's not an impulse buy at this point. So that is really tough to get people in at this juncture on a number one issue, especially if you're asking people for this kind of entertainment, and especially when you're delivering things like that are written for trade to where that single issue really is not going to be valuable for an entertainment time anyway. That's a tough sell. And the trades do end up being a little cheaper per issue, so that's why I wait for trade at this point. I wait for omnibus a lot of the times, let's be honest. And then 5, lack of distribution options. Absolutely. This has been the killer of the comic industry for a long time. Once they moved to the comic shop model and then went to just a singular distributor point, which was Diamond for a while, and now they all have their own distributors, which are their single distributor points, it became a nightmare to deal with and try to find comics. They used to be on gas stations, grocery store stands. They're not there anymore. And of course, online options are even worse. You pretty much only have Amazon for that, which is the monolith evil corporation of all evil corporations too. So comics are in a dire strait on that level when there's a lot of options out there these days. That's why I do Subscribestar, for example. It's just a random website where I'm able to have my freedom of speech. I'm able to make my art as it is and just post it for fans, and I show it to people. I put it up on arkhaven.com also, which is a beautiful website, arkhaven.com. And then people can check out my work there. I've got it on Amazon also and on my bookstore. So on the independent side, we're doing things a little differently, and it's helping quite a bit. But that distribution scheme for the comic book industry, for the main one, is in a rough state because there's only, out of the 2,300 comic shops that are out there now, only 500 of them are really comic book stores that carry anything at this point. It's sad. So Gail Simone's 100% right on this. This is exactly what we've been saying for years. And of course, I've been called every name under the sun for making these points myself. But maybe she just says them a little better than me because she's more tactful. I'm a much more of a tell it exactly how I feel kind of person. But here it is. And Gail's got this, and I think she's 100% right. Gosh, these are big troubles for the comic book industry, and I don't see it getting any better. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit that like and subscribe button, my friends. We'll be back soon.